Let's bring in Olawale Ismail, who's a senior lecturer at the African Leadership Centre at King's College London. He joins us from the English capital. Olawale, welcome. So these findings outline some
Thank you.
egregious acts by both sides. What's your overview of this report and its implications?
Thank you. I think this is a welcome development because some of the recent wars and conflict in Africa, DRC, North and South Kivu, in Sudan, in South Sudan, in Somalia, and a few other locations in Libya and the rest, they have been crying out for investigation for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity. So this is a welcome development. And DRC has always been a fertile ground for the ICC and, investigation of war crimes, either directly by the ICC or by the UN Human Rights Commission. So since in the last 10, 12 years, there have been successful prosecutions and convictions of at least 3 warlords in DRC in relation to war crimes and crimes against humanity. So this is, a continuation of that. But the reality of this is, how do we balance we have the age-old issue of balancing the quest for justice in relation to the demand for peace, the peace process as well. We know the United States President Trump has brokered a ceasefire in DRC between the government of DRC and the government of Rwanda, and that has, so how do we balance this? Is America and the peace process the key provisions, which we don't yet know what the final provision and agreement, what certain clauses or element in it, what do they contain, and could that peace process override the demand for justice by the ICC? That is something that needs, that we have to see how it plays out. But for the UN Human Rights Commission, the fact-finding mission and the report, and it being picked up by the ICC for investigation is indeed a welcome development.
Yes, on that, you mentioned the peace process that's been brokered by the US and Qatar. I mean, that seems to have stalled somewhat. Do you think why do you think that's stalling? And at what point might we see some accountability for what are some horrendous crimes that are outlined, potential war crimes that are outlined in this report?
I'm not sure the peace process has any element or any clause or, anything that has to do with accountability of parties to the conflict in relation to violations of international law and, the Rome Statute and all the relevant treaty obligations. I do not think what we know, we've heard of in that peace process has any accountability mechanism built into it. If anything, it might actually be a basis to override accountability. But the investigation by the UN Human Rights Commission, as well as the ICC, they can operate in parallel to whatever the peace process has or does not has, or does not contain. So, but at the end of the day, something we have to give. If there is, of course, this is still investigation. If there is evidence that crimes against humanity and war crimes have been committed, as alleged or as the possibility is being raised, then that has to be taken up by the ICC. It has been done before; it can be done again, especially in relation to the DRC. The key issue here is that state parties are now directly being involved. It is not just about warlords now that are the target of investigation. The Rwandan Defense Force have been fingered in it. The armed forces of the DRC have also been fingered for possible investigation, in addition to the M23. So the coming up of state parties, from possible indictment of state parties, it also remains at which level is that responsibility for those violations going to rest? Will it go back to? Will it be limited to unit commanders or military commanders on the battlefield, or will it go back to the political authorities that that gave directions or that gave orders for military operations to proceed? So we don't yet know where that will rest, but we do know that sitting, you know, political actors and officers, in the case of the post-election violence in Kenya, have faced indictment before now in
Okay.
Africa. But whether the climate then, the international climate then, that made such bold moves by the ICC possible at the time, whether we still have the same international consensus and solidarity in relation to war crimes and crimes against humanity, whether the international system, the global geopolitics and all that
Yes.
we have, the Trump presidency and what is going on, whether it makes that possible this time around, we wait to see.
We will see. Olawale Ismail, Senior Lecturer at King's College London, thank you so much for your time.